Good morning. Welcome to the CSLDallas Science of Mind class on Sunday mornings. I'm Dr. Petra, and we are in our chapter, Principles of Successful Living, and we're starting the section on demonstrating the law. It's one of those little sections in the book. I just would like to read the entire thing to you, but we won't do that. There's a lot to talk about here, demonstrating the law. So it starts out with the idea that the possibilities of the law are infinite and our possibilities of using it are infinite, right? The universal law and mind, we can use it. So what's this law that we're talking about? It's the law of cause and effect. It is the law that is the operation of the creative process. It is how an impulse, a thought, an idea, a movement in consciousness actually manifests itself through an orderly process that is called the law of cause and effect. Lots and lots of ways in which that law is talked about popularly in metaphysics, in New Thought, the law of attraction, the law of correspondence, the law of giving and receiving, the law of circulation. These are all variations of this idea of the law of cause and effect and the way to use it. We can use it. We may and should receive full benefit of using this law. Actually, the reality of it is we're always using this law. What we want to do is become conscious that this is the way it works. Just like the laws of aerodynamics were always present until somebody decided to figure out how to make something fly. And they discovered the laws, and then they had to learn how to work with the laws, comply with the way the laws work, and eventually they figured out how to make planes that fly, and then jets that fly, and then planes that come straight up off the ground, and all of that. Because the laws were always there, they had to be discovered. Then they had to be, we had to learn how to use them, and then they had to be applied. And so when we demonstrate the law, we're doing the same thing. We're discovering that this law exists. It has always existed. It's always working in our lives. We're learning how it works and how to use it, and then we're practicing applying it. So we're going to go on to this next paragraph. We can demonstrate at the level of our ability to know. Beyond this, we cannot go. But we will constantly expand and increase in knowledge and understanding, thereby continuously growing in our ability to make use of the law. So the question is, we can demonstrate at the level of our ability to know. To know what? Beyond this, we cannot go. But we will constantly expand and increase in knowledge and understanding. Knowledge and understanding of what? The law, and then our use of it. So it's really interesting to notice the way that Ernest Holmes uses the terms demonstrate and manifest. Here he's talking about demonstrating the law. He's not talking about manifesting a particular thing. So what is it that we need to know? What is it that we need to grow our level of ability to know? It is our understanding of the law. And so often I think that particularly with the way this has been popularized, we think, well, I have to be able to imagine, more wealth or more health or a better relationship. I have to be able to imagine what it looks like and know that is my reality. Maybe, but not necessarily. Actually, the most important thing we have to know is how it works. We have to understand and know how this universal law operates, and then we can begin trying it out, figuring it out. It's a little bit like we know how electricity works, but we're not exactly sure how many sets of Christmas lights we can actually string together. So we know that if we string them together, the ones at the end will light up. That's right. We understand that this is how the law of electricity works, and this is how the law of this stringing together works. And then all of a sudden we practice and we apply, and then we see, okay, 12 strings is 2 strings too many. We can only put 10 strings. But we don't need to have picture of the end result, like, oh, I already know that 12 strings are going to work. What I need to know is how electricity works. That's what I need to know. And then I apply it and I see how it goes. It's the demonstration of the law that we can't go beyond. So if we think that the universal law of cause and effect works great for money, but not for health, or we think it works great for people who are really spiritual, but not for us, or we think it only works for esoteric, spiritual of God things, we should only use it for those things, and we shouldn't use it to actually manifest something in our life. Do you see, all of these are ways in which we circumscribe our knowledge and use of the law, never mind whether or not we can imagine the outcome. We can demonstrate at the level of our ability to know. We will constantly expand and increase in knowledge and understanding, thereby continuously growing in our ability to make use of the law. Right? And another way of saying that is that we're growing our faith that it works. So we begin to see that if it's working in one area of our life or around one situation or in one circumstance, we can begin to see, oh, well, if it works here, it must work here too. There must be a way I can apply it over here. If I can use it for my Christmas lights, maybe I can use it for the lights on the outside of my house when they're not Christmas lights, or maybe I can figure out how to use it in an entirely different way. Or maybe I can stop plugging it in and put it on a battery. I can expand my understanding of the ways in which it can be applied, the things to which it can be applied. So to go on here, there is a law of unfoldment in us which says we can advance only by going from where we are to the place where we would like to be. This is not because the law is limited, but because it is a law. As we unfold our mentality, the law automatically reacts to us. And again, it's not so much our mentality on being able to imagine a better life, although we are going to get to that. But being able to imagine a better life is only wishful thinking, unless we really understand why being able to imagine a better life is actually something that we can manifest, because we understand that we're using a law. We're not hoping, we're not wishing, we're not wondering, we're not waiting. We're not thinking somehow Spirit is going to do it for us. We're not thinking that somehow the universe is going to take pity on us or going to reward us or punish us. None of those things. Because we understand that we're using a law. And that's what it means to demonstrate the law. Sometimes when I do a spiritual mind treatment and I'm working on something, I don't know exactly how it's going to look in form. I don't know how it's going to unfold. I know all of that is the law's job. If I will demonstrate my understanding of the creative process, which means that if we will put a cause in motion, set a new cause in motion, regardless of the experiences, regardless of the conditions or circumstances, set a new cause in motion and absolutely understand that we are using a law, I don't have to necessarily fully know what it's going to look like. I might actually not be able to imagine it. But if I've demonstrated the law enough times in my life, if we've demonstrated it enough times in our life, we can actually take the leap of faith and apply the law to something that we can't even imagine, like social justice, a healthy planet, freedom from inherited disease, never ever having to experience of lack again in our own lives, always being taken care of financially or otherwise, healing relationships. We might not know really what the form of these things are. We might not even be able to imagine what the process is, but we know that there is a law and we can use it. And so we apply our use of the law to the thing that we want to manifest. As we unfold our mentality, the law automatically reacts to us. So the way to work is to begin right where we are, and through constantly applying ourselves to the truth, we gradually increase in wisdom and understanding. It doesn't say apply ourselves to our ability to feel the outcome. And I know this goes against a lot of the ways that this has all been popularized. And this is why Ernest Holmes says in the Science of Mind glossary, visualization is great if that's all we know how to do, but it is in fact a limitation. Because if we can't imagine the form, and if we can't always imagine how we're going to get there, we withdraw our ability to trust the law, to trust the universe. And so we don't actually believe our demonstration, our manifestation is going to happen. Not because we can't imagine the outcome, but because we haven't applied the law. Because we're not trusting in the law. We're not trusting in the universal process that has a definite way of operating from cause to effect in the creative process. If we will manifest a new cause in our minds and understand that that's what the law uses to make a new result, that's actually enough. Now, granted, it helps if we have some sense of the outcome, because we do want to give a mold to the universe, to this law that might be in alignment with what we're looking for, but it's not required because we're using a law. So this constantly applying ourselves to the truth. What is this truth? The truth of the nature of reality, the truth of who we are, the truth of the fact that we are the unlimited expression of the divine as an individualized expression. And if the universe is manifesting the universe using this law, we're the microcosm of that. We reenact that. We do exactly that in our own lives. And what we do is consciously begin to do that because, the truth is it's happening all the time anyway. We're constantly using the law, but we're just using it unconsciously, automatically, unthinkingly, because it is already taking whatever we think is the cause in our subconscious mind, subjective mind, whatever's running in the background back there, that's the cause. And it's playing out. So we constantly apply ourselves to the truth, not the truth of the outcome, not the truth of the form, but the truth of the cause. We're constantly applying ourselves to the truth of the cause, setting that new cause in motion and using the law. We gradually increase in wisdom and in understanding, for in this way alone will good results be obtained. If day by day we have a greater understanding and a clearer concept, if daily we realize more of the truth and applying it in our actions, then we are on the right path and eventually we shall be made free. What are we applying? What are we understanding? We're having a clear concept and a clear application of the demonstration of the law. This is why, so often, when we started out manifesting specific things, $50, a penny on the ground, a parking space, right? And sometimes if we've been in it long enough and we've gotten to the point where we're simply oming and I'm allowing spirit to move through me, we might have to go back and remember that we're actually using a law. This is the fourth kingdom of consciousness. As me, the universe is individualizing itself, showing up and getting to play at creation and experience what that's like consciously in a self-aware manner. And so we realize more truth, the nature of reality, who we are as an aspect of that reality, an individualized expression, and the way that creation actually happens, the universal law of cause and effect. And eventually we'll be made free. What will we be made free of? Our limitations, our fears, our sense of, it's always been this way, so it's going to have to be this way. Well, this is just the way it is. Well, nothing will ever change. Or, this area over here is intractable and won't be affected by spiritual work. Or this thing over here, it's all about them. They have to get their shit together because it's about them. It's not about me, right? All of that, we are made free from all limitations, even up to and including the limitation of believing that we are merely human and that we are somehow limited by that. He does go on to say this doesn't mean we just necessarily break the natural laws. It doesn't mean that necessarily if you walk off of a 10-foot building that you won't drop to the ground, because gravity does work. But in alignment with the spiritual law of cause and effect, there's no end to what we can do. We can drop off that 10-foot building in lots of ways and not hit the ground because we've used the law and we've manifested something different. So when we talk about the term demonstrate, Ernest Holmes in The Science of Mind is always speaking about demonstrating the law, which is why we say the demonstration happens in consciousness. He uses the term manifestation to mean the outer result, whether that's a thing, a specific thing that I've manifested, or whether it's peace or a healthy relationship. It can be a tangible or intangible, but something that's been manifested in the space-time continuum that you can point to, that's verifiable. People would say, yes, actually, you are much more peaceful. It's not just, oh, I feel more peaceful, but I actually behave more peacefully, I act more peacefully. It's verified by others, or I can point to the thing. I have more money, I've made this, I've attracted a relationship, whatever it is. That's the manifestation, right? It's manifested in the physical world. The demonstration happens in consciousness. The demonstration is our use of the law, and this means our understanding and use of the creative process. And this is what we're doing when we're doing a specific spiritual mind treatment, or when we're really paying attention to the way in which we're paying attention to life and the way in which we're engaging in life with a very deliberate and deep understanding of spirituality and what is actually going on and what our part is in that. And that's not a psychological statement, what my part is in it, but a spiritual statement from a causal reality, what our part is. It's wonderful to experiment. It's wonderful to experiment and a great adventure to make conscious use of the law, to feel that we can plant an idea in mind and see it gradually take form, right? Through the law of growth. It moves through the space-time continuum. It's not just like that necessarily. But what a wonderful thing. It's wonderful to experiment and a great adventure to make conscious use of the law, not to wonder whether we're allowed to, whether we should, whether this is somehow too puny or selfish, or is it really alignment with the will of God, or any of this nonsense, right? It is wonderful to experiment. And one of the things that we'll experiment with are the things that we want to create actually going to fulfill us? We're going to discover that. And it's a great adventure. What are all the forms, all the ways this could show up that really allows us to express and be all that we came here to be? It's not just, oh, I have to fix this and I have to prove myself there and I have to do this and right, and I'm going to get my little boxes all lined up so my life, I can say, oh, see, my life is perfect. My life is perfect. No, it's a grand adventure. It's wonderful to experiment, because we're using the law, right? And so this is part of like the science part of the science of mind, to experiment all the ways in which this law can be used. And we become this incredible contribution, not only to our own lives, but to the lives of our family, to the lives of our workplaces and our communities, to the lives of the nation and to humanity as a whole. What if we went on the great experiment? What if we went on this wonderful experiment about healing our sense of separation and divisiveness around race or around politics? What if we went on to the grand experiment that we could, in fact, put a new cause in motion that would allow humanity to rise to its spiritual awakening, and we would stop making a mess on our own home. I mean, these are the experiments. And of course, as in every experiment, you go into, my father was a research chemist, and he would tell me, and Edison, of course, you have the big story. I know 99, whatever it is, 99,000, 9,900, I can never remember how many zeros is behind that 99. I know that many ways not to make a light bulb until the light bulb was created. Experiment, 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 experiment. Right? We're experimenting in our consciousness with our ability, our understanding and knowledge of the creative process. And we keep experimenting with it, and we find the things that are limiting us, and they appear, and then we can let them go or release them or heal them or shift them or whatever we need to do, right? We're constantly experimenting in this great adventure called our own lives, individual life and our contribution to the collective life. Demonstrating the law, which of course then also makes it much more fun than I'm going to work with the law and I have to somehow do it correctly, right? So it's not like a law he does say we have to be obedient to the law, which might be potentially one of the most annoying things written in the Science of Mind textbook. We have to be obedient to the law. It just used to really, really, really irritate me until I understood. Right? You have to use the law the way it works. You can't say 2 + 2 is 9. It's not how it works, right? And you have to understand what the plus sign means and the equal sign means. And you get into algebra, you have to understand what the little coefficient signs mean and the little, and all the x's and y's. As long as you understand what they mean, you can make them work. You can make all that work, but you have to understand what they mean and how they work, and then you apply them correctly. And then you can figure out whatever it is you need to figure out, like how to send a rocket to the moon. It's a grand experiment, our lives. And if we could stop making them quite so serious, it's not that there aren't things that are serious, obviously, but if we could stop making it quite so serious, we could actually try to demonstrate the law in whole new ways we've never even dreamed of. All right, so we're going to stop there because this just, oh my God, it's so great. And the next paragraph, don't read it yet because it's going to take us on another tangent. So we're just going to stop right there. This idea of demonstrating the law, and see what comments you have, questions, things you want to offer. Please talk to me and Ryan and Richard. We're sitting here in the studio and we would love to hear from you. So I'm going to turn it over to Ryan.
Peter, we really should give Richard a microphone. He's got a voice like an angel, if you guys haven't ever heard Richard sing.
That's true.
So I want to welcome everybody who is watching us live here on Facebook, and also to all those who are joining us here in the Zoom room. I do want to mention, if you guys want to talk, which this is the engagement time, so we have a back and forth. We really want to encourage you to have some questions and comments. If you're in Zoom, go ahead and hit the raise your hand icon located down below on the bottom of your screen. And for some, it might just be under the more option there as well. Or you can always put it in the chat and comment section and I can read it out loud. Same goes for those who are watching us on Facebook. If you can, put your comments inside the comments section. I'll go ahead and bring those into the room. I do want to let everybody know that I keep it anonymous, so in that way you guys can ask and we can bring it into the room without any type of, hey, I see you. So, yeah, we'd love to open up the floor. Would anybody like to ask a question or put a comment in here?
Or share your demonstration
of the law.
Or share
your demonstration of the law. Mm-hmm. So I do see one of the comments that came in, and I'll ask this question as people are preparing to raise their hand.
Great.
So you're talking about demonstration today, and one of the things that pop up for a lot of people that I've seen out here on the chat is false demonstrations. So how do you stop yourself from giving yourself cancer? Like one of those times when you're thinking inside of your head, oh, there's a bump on my arm. It must be cancer. There's a bump on my arm. It must be cancer. There's a bump on my arm. It must be cancer. How do we get over that? How do we stop those false demonstrations?
Yeah, that's a great question, right? So if this is a science, right, we call it the science of mind. If this is a science, one of the things that science requires is discipline. And it requires us not to be caught by our emotions, primarily our fear. And so in the science of mind, we recognize that fear is simply misguided or misused faith. It basically means that we have faith that if we have a bump on our arm, it's bound to be cancer. Whereas we could have the faith that we have a bump on our arm, it's bound to be a no thing. It's bound to be a nothing. And so our job is to monitor and notice those things that we do. And then ask ourselves, what does he say? The way to work is to begin right where we are. I have a bump on my arm. And through constantly applying to ourselves to the truth, we gradually increase in wisdom and understanding. So is it a truth that it must be cancer? Not with a capital T. It's not a truth. It's not in alignment with life, presenting itself as life, fully unfolding, and the divine pattern of wholeness, right? And so this is what it means to wake up and be conscious, is to notice that we've gotten trapped in a way of using the creative process that is not going to get us the demonstration or the manifestation that we want. And we have to apply our discipline, our ability to say, I am not my thoughts. I can change this thought, and I can look at that bump and say, well, I just trust it's a no thing. I trust it's a no thing. I trust it's a no thing. And that's why we use affirmations. That's the best reason for using an affirmation, in my opinion. I seldom use affirmations to manifest something. I use affirmations to keep my brain going in the direction I want it to go in, using the law in the way that I want to use the law. And when I find my brain going off someplace else, I reach for a very simple, very concrete affirmation that I can remember and say over and over and over and over and over again. It's nothing, it's nothing, it's nothing. There's nothing in the universe holding it in place. It's nothing, it's nothing, it's nothing. Right? I'm using the law the way that I choose to use it as opposed to unconsciously. And that's why becoming conscious is work. And when we're first really starting to do it and we really find ourselves wrestling with our fear, it's tiring. There's no question about it. Wrestling with our minds and wrestling them into shape is no less work than going into the gym and deciding that I'm going to release 20 pounds and I'm going to get strong enough and I'm going to be able to, lift X amount of weights. It takes work. It takes work. But the outcome is amazing. So that's a great question. Thank you. Ryan, I'm going to turn to you.
Great. And I see we have a couple people with their hand raised and
Great.
then a couple questions to go through here. So the first person I'm going to call up is Jeff. Jeff, do you want to go ahead and unmute yourself?
Hi, Jeff.
Yes, I would love to. Good morning.
Good morning.
So nice to be here again
Yay.
with you. Dialogue yesterday was in the direction of a lot of this demonstration and manifestation of the law that you've been describing. We spoke about freedom, and I noticed that the tail end of what we were listening to as you were reading was this shift, this freedom that comes from really working with this law, the experimentation with this law. And so what was interesting about the conversation yesterday is that Tom Bouldry reframed it for us, and we had a chance to think about it before we actually got into the dialogue, and the reframing was, he said, since freedom has been a dialogue topic before, I have some thoughts and can add some richness and depth, I think. As I recall, our past conversations have tilted toward politics when we spoke of freedom. But this is the reframing, freedom to choose. Yes. How am I being inhabited by habits that inhibit my freedom? What new questions am I asking? What new conversations am I having? Am I just repeating the same stories? Yes. Peter Block says, learning, growth, and transformation are based on new conversations. Yes. And asking new questions. We all know people who are nearly always telling the same stories every time they speak. Even when they are not telling the exact same story, the theme is the same. Yes. The same is true about asking questions. You can predict what questions some people ask. To what degree are you one of these people? How am I using my freedom to learn, grow, develop, and evolve my consciousness? So we had quite a dialogue then about our limiting habits. And I won't go into mine, but it had to do with a shift in what it was that I'm putting into my body, and the impact of unhealthy carbs and sugar, and just seeing things differently and asking the questions differently. Yes. But what I want to share just as a final thought on this is that as we do develop this freedom, we can more deeply experience the freedom from unconsciously following / allowing the habits of being human.
Beautiful. Awesome, Jeff. Thank you so much for sharing that, and thank you for sharing Tom's words and you got your guys' experience. It's exactly right? Ultimately, the freedom is in our consciousness, and we're designed to run on habits. We're just not aware of the fact that the habits are running us, and we're not paying attention to how those habits play out, because the law is operating on those habits. That's all it's got, until we set new causes in motion. And that's what frees us, right? I'm utterly entranced by Don Miguel Ruiz's statement. He calls it our domestication, which is ultimately our belief that we have become limited inside the human experience, the human body and our environment and how we grew up and the limitations of what we inherited, which includes all of the unconscious biases and unconscious beliefs about how life operates, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And that is what we become free of. That's what we become free from. And that's what changes everything, because now the law has a different cause to operate on, to manifest something in our lives. Thank you so much, Jeff. All right, Ryan.
I'm going to pop in with a question.
Great.
So this one says, I feel guilty about asking the universe for financial abundance because I do not know where it is coming from. And I don't want to take anything that already belongs to somebody else.
Oh, bless your heart. I'm going to do a little Bob Newhart moment here. Stop it.
Stop it.
If you don't know it, go out on YouTube. Bob Newhart, stop it. Okay, so let's unpack it. A, you're not asking for anything. The universe has already given an unlimited amount of abundance to everything. Let me rephrase that. The universe is already unlimited abundance that is available. Just think about it. It doesn't matter how many seeds you plant in the soil. Every seed does pull out from the soil what it needs to grow. The soil doesn't say, wait a minute. We only have space for 10 seeds. If you've ever grown anything in a garden or in a little, like, if you've ever sprouted sprouts, I mean, they're packed in there, and the universe doesn't limit. Actually, we end up going out there and we end up weeding out the extras so that then there's room for things to grow, right? So it's nonsense that we're asking, and it's nonsense that we're taking anything from anybody else, because the universe is that unlimited potential. And so when we think about our abundance, we don't need to know where it comes from. That's the law's job, right? That's the universal law's job, to manifest that abundance in the kinds of forms that we're looking for, like money or a financially rewarding job or things like that, right? What we can't do is say, I want that person's job. I want that person's home. That would be an incorrect use of the law, because unfortunately the law does work and we would steal it from them. But you're not doing that. You're simply allowing yourself to be open to the abundance, and you're saying the abundance of the universe is showing up in my life as work that is financially rewarding. Well, somehow the universe has to, the law, you've set that cause in motion, it now has to bring about that effect. And it could be that somebody gets promoted so that you get that job. And it could be that somebody decides to move out of town so that you get that job. It could just as easily be that the universe is now manifesting a whole brand new job. It is not your job to figure out how that's going to happen. That tells us we're not demonstrating the law. Do you see, the law of electricity doesn't say, well, I'm sorry, you can't use that. You can't use that. You're going to take electricity from something else. We're not talking about anything that's finite. And so this abundance in the universe is what is, just think about this. Just think about this for a minute. So there was a big bang. Everything that was ever needed is already present in the cosmos. For every star that you see, every galaxy that you see, every tree that you see, every black hole that you see, it's constantly creating and expanding more and more and more stuff, right? Unlimitedly. Is that a word? Unlimitedly. I don't know if that's a word or not.
It is now. Me and Bobby are putting that on our next t-shirt.
And so, do you see? There's this is where we get this old religious nonsense about that. There's only so much to go around, and if I get my good, then somehow I'm taking it from someone else. Now, this is true in terms of form. So let me make another example. Let's take the example of fossil fuel and energy. Right? And there is the assumption that we should be able to have all the energy we want, therefore we should be able to have all the gas and oil we want. Well, no, gas and oil is a form, and we will eventually run out, and we'll do tremendous damage, or have already, on our planet. What there isn't is a limitation in energy. There's no limitation in energy. So what have we been learning? We've been learning new ways of creating energy. Some of them good, some of them maybe not any less harmful, not less harmful than what we've got, right? Wind, solar, geothermal, you know the list. So it's not energy. There's an unlimited amount of energy available, but the form that it takes, we're learning what the consequences of each of the forms are. And so it's completely rearranging your understanding of the nature of reality. We're not asking for anything. We're not taking anything from anybody else. We are affirming that the abundance, which is already ubiquitous, is also manifesting for us. And it's manifesting in our life in a particular manner, whether that's the ability to travel or an upgraded home or money to pay our bills. We can aim it at whatever we choose. So we're going to release guilt. We're going to release the idea that you can take something from someone as long as you are not looking at someone's specific home or job or partner, right? You can say a job like that, a house like that, wow, a partner like that, but we don't actually take anything from anybody. So we wouldn't say their job, their home. That's the only way that you can take something from someone. So I invite you into the experiment, into the grand experiment, and just say to your guilt, it's okay, it's okay. We're going to prove to ourselves, right? This is a science. That's what science does. It experiments to prove a theory. So now your job is to set up the scientific experiment to prove to yourself that you can be abundant, experience financial good, and see that it harms no one. Do that experiment. See what happens. It's a great question, and you are not by any means the only person who has that question, so thanks for asking it. Brian.
Great. Thank you for answering as well, Petra. All right, so I'm going to ask Sandra to go ahead and unmute herself. Sandra, you're here with us.
Hi, Sandra.
Good morning, Petra.
Good morning.
So nice to see you this morning. I want to be less domesticated. I really do. I really do. Well, this goes back to kind of a line of conversation that you were on a couple of folks ago. But
Good.
What you said reminded me that I remind myself every day that the law doesn't just work sometimes, that it's on duty 24/7, 365, to put it in physical terms. And when someone says to me, well, it just doesn't work, it always reminds me when Ernest says, well, when we say it doesn't work, we prove that it works by it not working for us.
That's exactly right.
And that's really a huge help to me when any kind of doubt comes up within myself or in someone else, to say, well, yes, it is, and it's all about our use of it.
Yes.
Which is what you're discussing today.
Yes.
So that's what helps me to remember that it's always in place, always working, and I have not only the ability but the right to use it.
Yes.
So thank you.
Sandra, thank you so much. I think you say something really important. I have not only the ability to use it, I have the right to use it. Because the truth is, as you said, we're always already using it. All we're trying to do is use it consciously. So to go back to the conversation about abundance, asking for abundance. Right now, the truth is, you are using the law to create the level of abundance that you currently have. And you are asking for that with the thoughts and attitudes that we have, right? So, and the law simply says, here you go. So the only difference is to now consciously use the law by thinking about, what am I thinking about? Am I thinking about the bump on my arm, and am I thinking about it being bad, a problem? Am I thinking about my abundance always being less than I need, always being in lack and limitation? And all the universe can do, the law can do, is say, you're right. Yes, I will go busily now about manifesting that into form. That's what's happening all the time. All we're trying to do is to wake up to it and start using it consciously. That's the only difference. So we're not asking for anything. We're not turning the law on. We're not all of a sudden using it because now we know it. We're not any of those things. What we're doing is demonstrating our understanding that, as Sandra said, it is always working. This is how the universe is constantly in motion. And the question we can ask ourselves is if everything that we like, if everything that we have has been set in motion to an outcome that we like. And if it isn't, we have not only the ability but the right to say, I would like this to be a little bit different. And the more in alignment with truth, with spiritual truth and the trajectory of life that it can be, the more effortlessly we demonstrate, the more effortlessly we manifest. All right, so we're going to go on to read some more in this little section. Actually, it's actually quite a long section. It's really fabulous. And so this is how we, this is the principle of successful living, is to learn how to use the law in a conscious and deliberate manner, and to go in to participate in the grand adventure of the great experiments of our life. So this week, experiment. See what happens. Let it be an adventure as opposed to something that you do right or wrong, right? Even a failed experiment teaches the scientist something. So take it in that spirit and enjoy demonstrating the law in your life. I'll look forward to seeing you in our Sunday celebration and throughout the week on various activities that we are engaged in. Please do look at CSLDallas.org and see what's going on at the center, and we'll keep you informed every step of the way. Is there anything that we need to say, Ryan? Any announcements that we need to say?
No, I think that was perfect. We're going to be broadcasting on Facebook as for our Sunday service, so please go to facebook.com/CSLDallas, or you can always type CSL Dallas, all one word, inside of your search bar and find us that way. Mm-hmm. And we will see you in the experience. Experience.
See you soon. We will be on YouTube soon, so watch out for that too. Bye for now.